3 weeks into the program, Kathryn was heading into a sales call, fighting off her own worst self-talk. By the end of that call, she'd closed a $20,000 project. 2 weeks after that, she added 2 more deals on top of it. By week 7, she is at $48,000. Today, we're going to talk about how that happened. Kathryn, what got you into this line of business in the first place?
So I was always the art kid, right? There was never anything else I was ever going to do. Went to art school, a 4-year design college. And after art school, I spent my first few years working jobs in different ad agencies and in corporatized healthcare as an internal designer and unofficial brand manager. And I launched my business in 2002 because I was marrying somebody who was active duty military, and I needed a way to be able to keep designing, but in a way that allowed me to be mobile and move around as the U.S. Army required of us. And that's exactly what launching Kathryn Real Graphic Design allowed for me. And it gave me mobility in my business. And it also allowed me to work with a lot of different kinds of clients and different ad agencies every time we moved. And some of them are still clients and colleagues today, nearly 25 years later.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us. Now back to the video. That is crazy.
It's hard to believe. Like we're talking decades now, which it's gone so fast. It doesn't even seem possible, but here we are.
Yeah. Well, it also speaks to consistency, and we'll tap into this a little bit later. You're one of the most consistent people I ever met. And on week 3 of the program, you told me you were about to close this super big project and you were worried about it. You were kind of freaking out of the opportunity and how you were going to handle that. And I remember that you were headed to a yoga retreat to shut down, and correct me if I'm wrong, you mentioned the mean girl inner critic.
Yes.
And, y- and walk me through what was going through your head that weekend before the Monday call with that client.
So mean girl inner critic didn't used to be part of my creative process, but over the years, I've learned to kind of embrace what she's trying to tell me. And it's usually kind of like this knee-jerk protective response for something that feels a little bit out of my comfort zone or not quite within this lane that I have in mind for most of my business. And so the new client call that you're talking to was a referral to me by a colleague in my network. And the things that were going through my head before the actual call with this person were, why would they work with me? This isn't my niche. This isn't even anywhere close to my ICP. Are you allowing yourself to get distracted by taking on a client like this when your focus should be getting somebody closer to your ICP, or even in the business space that you're you're declaring to the world is your niche? Why are you taking this on? And there were a few more, but those were the main reasons why I thought, maybe this isn't such a smart move. But at the end of the day, if I was able to get this person to a yes, that would mean that some pretty substantial financial pressure would just be alleviated. And also, another thing that, like, you kind of, over the years, you learn where you really get into these deep flow states in the creative process. And this is not creative work. This is straight up production work. And I really love straight up production work. And so here was this opportunity that I could flex the production muscle, make a decent amount of money doing it. And I had kind of made up my mind. I want this. This would be a good thing. No, it does not match your main client criteria. But as far as meeting a financial goal, this is valuable. I wanted this work.
And I want to tap a little bit um here on, you said this is not my ICP. This is not what I have declared the world that I will be doing. Sometimes I would like to believe that it is okay for us to take on projects that are not like brand related, like full on is going to be my perfect client. Because I mean, it's rare that we get perfect things in life. And I appreciated the fact that you even considered that, not knowing at the time the potential investment that these people could make, but you open yourself up to possibility, and there was no judgment, no pre meditation of anything. You just went in with curiosity to see what it could be and if you could help. And as you said, like sometimes production work is fun too, because you don't have to tap into different types of your brain, and you can just like go ahead and do it. And again, we're talking about financial opportunities here too. I would like to believe as well that sometimes if it's well paid and is still design related, you can also benefit from this type of work. So I wanted to thank you for sharing that. And because again, it's not the ideal client persona, the ideal scenario yet. I don't want to ruin it for the people that are listening to it. So I'm gonna stop myself now, and I'm gonna tell the story. I'd rather have you telling the story than me telling the story.
Well, I want to add, like for work that's fun, there's a value in that too, right? Not all your work is going to be fun. It's just not, right? But when you get those opportunities to take on these projects, that's kind of a cherry on top. There's value in that.
Yeah, 100%. Kathryn, that Monday, in the morning before that call, I shared a few things with you, and we focused a lot on the why this, why now, why me, framework. And I want you to tell me what shifted for you between feeling worried that weekend, like over the weekend and the Friday when we originally spoke about this, and actually walking into that call with that information in hand.
Right. Well, the framework of why this, why now, why me was so hugely helpful. Um, Before you and I had talked prior to that call, my inner critic was really starting to take over. After
It was doing a number, right?
it really was. I mean, I was really feeling kind of apprehensive about not the skills. The skills were never the question. It was more, is this a right fit? Am I going to be able to take on this project and get a reasonable amount of money doing it? Not really from this position of trading money for files, but making a value proposition that would resonate with this client. And I feel like the why this, why now, why me helped me get there to make those arguments. And in fact, when I got into that call, I was feeling very comfortable indeed. There was really no reason to be nervous about this call. Like I said, the expert skill set for this production job was never in question. There was no question that I could do this work in such a way that they were blown away. I could over deliver. The biggest shift for me was getting out of this mindset of, like we had just mentioned, selling time and files in exchange for the money. During my my yoga time and a couple other breathing exercises and some mental focus that I did over the weekend really helped me make that lane shift. And the value proposition was the thing that was most important to me. For me, it was important for me to believe that walking into this conversation. And I did believe that, but you have to enter these scenarios where you know that so well, and you're so comfortable with the fact that, yeah, I can do the work. That's, that there's no question about it, that this, the selling part of it becomes very, kind of, um, kind of after the fact. It was a very intuitive and kind of easy transition. In fact, on the call, she was more nervous about that part of the conversation than I was. So it was a difference of walking into this meeting fully believing, like my heart's mandate, I can do this work. I know what it takes to solve a pain point for you and to bring production value and expertise to you in such a way that it's going to be a relief for you to give me this work. Um, Also, they needed to know somebody was on their side, and having an ally in me in this capacity is a gold mine for them, that they can look to me for relief and help, and knowing that having me in their corner is just an enormous value, and they're not going to get it anywhere else. That went a long way to help my confidence. And I felt like I entered that call very calm, extremely confident, and with a huge amount of empathy to their situation, which was not great. They got downsized and they were in kind of a tough situation. And when you bring just this kindness and understanding to the conversation, when they're in this vulnerable spot and you're throwing them a life jacket, it was like I came to save the day. They were thrilled to say yes.
I love the fact that you mentioned the empathy portion, because in sales, and this is something that we talked quite a bit before that call, um, is that a lot of people focus so much on the money and closing the sale. And of course, we are running a business. It is important for us to have an idea of this conversation is going to end up in an agreement that is going to be financial, is going to have a financial result in a way. But at the same time, what I enjoy about this conversation is that you focus so much on the empathy side of things and the why this person was in the call in the first place, and why they were talking to you, why they wanted to do that, and why they wanted to do it at that time with you. And that relieved, as you said, so much of that pressure that you were putting on yourself the week before. And let's make sure we've got this right, because we've been talking about, hey, this was a significant project. There was the money sign and is added to it. If you're comfortable sharing it with us, what did that project end up being worth?
$20,000.
That is crazy. It's crazy to think about that, because you posted right after that she focused so much on everything else because you made her so comfortable. And you said much more about her why was focus, or sort of, if I may call it this, the way that she was feeling about the money conversation was shifted to you understanding why she was there in the first place, because you started asking the why questions and not the how much. And then the money question ended up being a known issue in that conversation at all. Can you unpack that for people watching this, how that failed and how you transition this conversation to her not having anxiety, or you not having anxiety or fear or maybe shame about money, the money talk in a way?
Sure. So in in previous meetings like this, I would usually sit there and listen to the information and start associating, well, this is going to be X number of files and they're going to take me this many hours per file. And you just start doing the mental math, right? It was a very large change for me to turn off that tape and just listen to the 10,000-foot view of what success looks like for them. And I asked specifically that. And the whole tone of the conversation changed as soon as I asked that question, because I don't think anybody ever thought to ask that of her before. She was really starting to get into the weeds. And as soon as I asked that question, it was like an about face. We were going down this very granular path. And as soon as I asked, what does flamboyant, amazing success look like for you? We immediately took the off ramp. And she described a scenario to me that was not an outrageous ask. There was nothing crazy or unexpected about what success looked like to her, because it was all already part of my process. But it also reframed the conversation for her, because it indicated to her that I understand more than files and keystrokes and print profiles. Like, I understand why you need this help. And I understand very clearly what it means to bring you success. And now that I know what that is, I can exceed it as well. And
There's these things there. There's two things that I want to maybe go deeper, if I may. One of them was, nobody had asked her before what success meant to her in that conversation, and how that reshifted the entire conversation. And it went from a sales call to, hey, I'm here to help. And can you just take a moment to listen to everything that I have to say? Because yes, I had skin in the game and I want a successful interaction with you. Immediately, there's a mind shift in the conversation from a client perspective. And I love that, because we talked about this. Is in fact one of the question, is the last question that we asked in the 40 questionnaire, and when we do the intake. And I love the fact that you brought that question into the sales call as well, to remind that person and that client that you were there to make sure that you were going to meet that success that she was expecting, that nobody had talked about with her. And the second thing is, you said this goes beyond files. This goes beyond me knowing what to do or doing the work. You position yourself as a partner. And that's what we have focused so much since we started with this, is to become a premium partner, to become an architect of being that strategic individual who goes in and does much more than just delivering files. So I just wanted to tap deeper on that, because those two things, from my perspective, when you came back to share how that conversation went with her, were so pivotal in the way that you position yourself in that call.
once we went down this path, the money conversation was extremely easy. She was ready for nickel and diming, right? I think that's what she came prepared to hear and to work with. As soon as I asked, what does success look like to you? I think it kind of dawned on her that this was no longer a nickel and diming conversation. This was now a value and percentages conversation. And once she realized that I was this expert coming to the table to solve some very specific and significant pain points on her end, the money part of it was the least part of our conversation. It was extremely easy.
Easy,
Yeah.
easy peasy. And that's what we want, right? We want these conversations to feel like a conversation. We don't want them to feel like a negotiation at any point. And it makes me super happy to hear that again, because I was celebrating with you when you shared this with me. That was such a massive reshift, reframed of the conversation. Um, Now that you've done this and you have experienced it, what would you tell someone else who's about to go into a big call, such as the one that you went through, and that person is perhaps fighting that same inner critic? What would you tell this person based on your experience and what you have learned this past couple of weeks?
Sure. So I am a big believer that inner critic is there for a reason and that you should not just listen to it, but give it a name, give it the microphone and let her, let him just have at it. But don't stop there, right? Um, I would tell somebody in this position that before you go into a call like this, you have to pledge to yourself, like hand over heart. I believe I can do this. I know I can do this. And you have to believe that you yourself can do the work that you are telling the world that you can do and that you want to do it before you attempt to sell it to somebody, right? You have to, with your whole heart, believe it, right? And going through this program, you build that confidence by doing, right? And you're changing the way that you work so that you're proving to yourself, yes, I can, because I already am. I am doing it and I've done it. And I've just won something, and that's proof. You build a lot of confidence really quick.
You do, and it reminds me when we go through when the module of the mindset, and what you just said just reminded me of the title of the module, like defeat your first hater, yourself. And I remember you laughed at it the first time you saw the module without knowing what the contents were and what you were going to be walking yourself into. And so I'm glad that you bring that back because yes, I don't believe that you have to run away from that. And I can echo what you just said. You have to face it. You have to face that inner critic and then go back to the why you do the things that you do, right?
Right. Well, if you can identify the things that your inner critic is telling you, what am I afraid of? What am I worried about? And you build proof, like you have these examples of ways that you have already worked through and overcome the things that you're worried about. Um, that goes a long way to really kind of bring down the anxiety before you get on a call like this because you already know you've done it. It gives you, it almost kind of gives you like this roadmap of things that um, you feel are somehow weak points in your service offerings, but sometimes it's just habit too.
Yes. Yes. It is a habit to be the most, the toughest um, critic is yourself. And it is a habit of doing that. And what we focused on a lot was to get over that relatively quickly because you're such a talented individual, Kathryn. And during those conversations that we had before that call, it was all focused on that. Like you need to defeat yourself first and in order to build yourself up and be the person that you want to be in these calls. And I mean, you sent me a message a few weeks ago. Um, and he said something along the lines of like, not that we're keeping score, but and then listed a few more things because that was not the only one. Tell me about the other two projects that you landed.
Well, after that win, um, I actually had two existing clients circle back. One is seasonal open enrollment materials and booked me for a $3,500 job. Um, Another one was a rush job from a client, kind of a problem child client that tends to do a lot of rush work and comes to me with incomplete information when things are already late. And I wasn't going to take this project, and initially said no. They let it sit for about a week and came back again and asked again to reconsider. And this time I said yes, but
But
it's look, there's going to have to be some punitive charges attached to this because it's high risk and it's high effort. And if we could really just structure things a little differently, not even significantly differently, just a little bit more organization and structure around your work processes, it didn't have to be like this. So between those two additional projects, the total is actually closer to 40. But I also have an addendum from just the end of last week. I have somebody that had contacted me just at the end of last week and is interested in a rebrand of their company, which is a very close hit to my ICP. And that is a direct result of targeted outreach on LinkedIn in high volumes that you suggested that I do. And it took me some time to work up to the volume that I do daily now. But this is a direct result of that. We talked this week, so we'll see. But also just had another seasonal project roll in for about $4,200. So I guess that puts us closer to $45,000 and maybe something in the pipeline too.
hey, I'll take all the wins. I'll take them all. And something that we focused on a lot, you touch on two different things here. One of them has been the process of outreach and trying to bring eyes to you, which after a few weeks now, we're on week 7 now. And I know it was, it takes a little bit of time to get used to these things. And then you start seeing results because this person, as you said, is the closest that we've gotten this past few weeks to someone who is in your ideal client persona environment, and the person, a person who needs the services that you are offering now, who you can put through the entire season that you've been learning this past few weeks. And it is such a, even though there's not a money sign attached to it now, I still call this a massive win because when I got that screenshot you sent me of, hey, this is the comment I sent her, and then she reached out in the DMs, that to me is the biggest testament that the process is working, that you are showing up where you need to show up. You're carving your own space in these platforms, the social media platforms. So that's one. And the other two, the other thing that I wanted to mention as well, and I wanted to press a bit deeper on that, was the past client who maybe wasn't being the partner that you strive for when in terms of working with someone. And I remember working through specifics of how you were, the only way that you would say yes to this past client was if they were following specific things. And I remember the conversation we had before you went into that meeting. You wanted them to do specific things, and we don't have to go into details and in terms of contracts and things like that. We don't have to. I wanted to mention the work that you did, that you learned and applied, and then within 48 hours, you got a contract signed for a significant amount of money under the terms that you wanted them to work with you. And this was a past client. their habits were not the greatest, and yet you applied everything you learned. And that's one of the things that I enjoy the most working with you, Kathryn, is that you learn, you ask, but most importantly, you do, you apply, and then you see the results. And that's such an important thing in terms of being mentored, being coached by someone is, are you even coachable? Are you even going to do what you're supposed to be doing?
Mhm. Well, when you're in business for a significant amount of time, I mean, this is a 25-year-old business. And so I have plenty of business processes set up, and most of them work okay. Um, my processes in getting a steady pipeline of predictable client engagement um, wasn't working so great. Things had worked better in previous years, but I was at a point where I was really beholden to clients deciding that they had their lives together enough to give me work that had been promised 9 months ago. Uh, and it really puts you on this hamster wheel that um, it's really difficult to get off of.
Well, not anymore,
Not
Kathryn.
anymore.
Not anymore. You're doing it now, and I see it happening, and you have a structure now for your business to not go through that hamster wheel ever again.
Right.
And and it's such a, so from my perspective, me being walking alongside of you these past few weeks is such a rewarding thing to be able to see that, because when we had the first conversation, that was one of the main things, is like, I'm tired of being, you know, pushed aside and not being treated fairly. And the past client abiding by your, not rules. I don't want to say rules, but abiding by a contract and a new way of working is allowing you to have control over when feedback comes through. Is allowing you to know when the project is ending, so you can align the next project, and then you don't have to be doing this crazy marathon of getting this done and then not knowing when the next project starts.
Right. Well, it was a little scarcity mindset too. When you're in a position where you feel like you have to say yes to every single thing that comes along, um, what it really is testing your boundaries. And when I started this course, I had promised myself, like, this is going to be kind of a sea change, and you might have some clients that don't like this, and you need to be ready for them to say, you know what, this just isn't for us anymore. And that would have been okay. The client that you're talking about, this problem client, um, this was kind of a good opportunity to use these new to me methods on them, just to see how they would respond. And I was fully prepared for them to walk. Um, they seem to really appreciate getting structure from me that they don't have themselves. And when I don't waver, I don't capitulate, they kind of wake up. Um, they respond surprisingly well to it. Um, and also, I think I had some pretty nice momentum too. Like, I had achieved a really nice win, and that really starts some really nice momentum, and you're leading not really from scarcity, from this place of abundance now. And it helps you embrace potential rejection in such a way that, look, there's plenty of work out there. And if they decide this is not the right fit for them, that's okay. There's going to be others. Um, but it's certainly helped for me to observe this client that, and this is a client for over 15 years. I mean, a long time. Um, and I've tried different things with them in the past. I've tried retainers. I've tried different kind of contracts, different kinds of communicating. Just nothing seemed to really hit. Um, and I think that this is kind of due to some kind of lack of internal structure that they are dealing with. And suddenly they do have it from me. and they understand the value that I bring to the picture. And I am hopeful that this continues moving forward. I think that especially for this particular project, they are relieved that I said yes, because they know that I'm just going to make this pain point go away. I'm going to make this problem go away. And to them, that was worth every dime that I asked for.
That is amazing. And those 48-hour feedback cycles, or whatever you want to call them, are definitely gonna keep them in check. And it's working. It's working. Exactly. I love the abundance mindset that you talk about, because it is such a difficult mindset to achieve. And I'm not gonna be revealing much. Um, yet you were really happy today to see some of those payments come through your bank account, and the relief that I saw in your face. And as you said, like, now you have control over your business. You're making decisions from an abundance place, an abundance perspective. And then, as you mentioned, you get to say no now. And then people, if they want to work with you, they need to work with you under your own terms, not theirs. And then that's what I call a partnership, right? Because I know what you can deliver. I know, as creative people, we know what we can do. Sometimes we just get caught up in not so great relationships. And Kathryn, looking back at these past few weeks, what part of the coaching or the program actually made the biggest difference for you? Or is there a few that you would like to mention?
Oh, compared to when I began this coaching method, I think I mentioned the hamster wheel a little earlier. I was really stuck. I was stuck. And I really sincerely wanted to change. Um, but I've tried so many things over the years that I wasn't really quite sure what to try anymore. This method gave me now there's no way around it. It's work. You have to do the work. However, uh the work is kind of non-drama. Um you go through these steps that you change your behavior a little bit at a time, like changes to my workday. I changed my productivity to support these different ways of working, right? And by ways of working, I mean protecting core chunks of time in your workday to make sure that the priority items are getting done. And that includes targeted outreach daily. Um, and in doing so, even though I'm still pursuing new and different clients, they're also now finding me, right? And that has not happened before. And it took increasing how much targeted outreach I was doing daily to move that needle, right? Uh,
Mm.
and I'm now making myself more attractive to people who are a much closer match to my ICP. And they're starting to ask me for consultation. Case in point, this meeting that I'm having this week. So it's working, right? The proof is in the whist, right?
It's working. I believe that what you're referring to in the productivity side of things is what we call the 333 plan inside of the program. Is protecting the core actions of the business, and doing them in threes, so you can see results. And I'm every time we have a checkpoint, it makes me really happy, because, as you said, like, the system works, and you are proof that everything that we have put together in the program, it is to their fruit. It is made to bring results. Um, Kathryn, you know this because we've talked about it many times. I'm a firm believer in mentorship and fast tracking past mistakes that you don't have to make yourself. I know you believe in that too, because we've had conversations about the power of mentorship and coaching. And if you were to share something with someone who's potentially considering this community or a community like this one, and perhaps is scared to do the work or scared of how painful it might be to change their own habits, what would you say to them?
Well, I think that I would encourage them to be more afraid of staying where you're at instead of just trying to change your situation, right? And sometimes fear can kind of trick you into feeling like you're safer staying put when really um, things aren't going to improve unless you're willing to try a different way, right? Um, so the scariest thing is, to me anyway, not trying or expecting that success is somehow going to come to you without you having to shape your day and operate a little differently and expect more from yourself. And a community like this one and a program like this one are, I mean, it's very challenging. There's no two ways around it. This is hard work. But I don't think there's many kinds of growth out there that are easy or pretty or comfortable. And you have to test yourself of how far can I push this and find a new normal. And when those growing pains are over and you've now arrived at this new place that's better than anything that you would have experienced had you just kind of marked time, stayed still, it makes the whole experience worthwhile because now you've achieved this vision for yourself that you couldn't have attained otherwise, right? And a program like this helps you identify the weak points and you find this clarity, this clear path. And this program helps you identify what are the actionable steps to progress you down this path. It's been fantastic. And if somebody were considering this program, but were nervous about the time requirements in their workday, is it too much work? Am I going to be able to do it? Try, just try. And even if it takes you trying a few times, which I mean, it's taken me several tries with some of the different modules, you you eventually arrive there. And that's the win, right? Sometimes the win is in the effort.
Cannot agree more with that, Kathryn. Look, you joined, you came to every call, you did your weekly homework, you watched every single video, you asked questions, you post in the community. It only made sense that you would get the type of wins that you're getting because you are, as I said at the beginning of this video, the most committed individual that I ever worked with. And I want to thank you, Kathryn, for your time and for sharing your experience with us and being part of the Premium Brand Architects community. It is an honor to have you being part of it.
I feel so fortunate to be part of this cohort. I feel very much that I am among my tribe, and you guys are my invaluable team.
Thank you. And if people want to connect with you, where can they find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn, Kathryn Hoeppel, and I'm also online, grillgraphicdesign.com.
You have done everything that we ask you to do, and there's nothing more rewarding for a mentor or a coach to see results because the person who is on the other end is doing what they're supposed to be doing. So I wanted to thank you for your time. And I'm going to hang up now because I can yap for the next hour. You know that. But I want to thank you for this past few weeks. Like it's been so great to see you and to see your growth. And when we started this, we had dreams and hopes, of what it could be, and you made all those dreams and hopes a reality, Kathryn. So
Thank you enough, my friend. This is a game changer for me. Thank you.
Well, is mutual, Kathryn.